Hardy Construction.
What's up, everybody? It's the Hardy Construction. You can find us at hardyconstruction.tumblr.com, youtube.com/hardyconstruction, as well as facebook.com/the Hardy Construction with your host Comp and
Shigeru Miyamoto.
And today's film is
Audition.
Audition is a 1999 film directed by Takashi Miike, based on the novel by Ru Murakami, written by Daisuke Tengan, who wrote the screenplay. Stars Ro Ishibashi, Eihi Shina, Atetsu Sawaki. That wasn't racist at all.
You racist bastard.
No way. It's about a widower that takes an offer to screen girls at a special audition arranged for him by a friend who find him a new wife. The one he fancies is not who she appears to be after all. Whoa,
It
whoa, whoa.
seems on the surface to be a good idea, and by the end of the movie, I'm convinced it's a good idea.
Hey, I dated a girl similar to this, and this guy got a better deal. Ho ho!
Oh, shit.
Whoa! Anyway, so do you have any history with this film, Danny?
I've seen the cover a bunch, and I've heard of it a bunch. I thought I had seen it, parts of it at least, but I haven't.
That's because you're racist and you thought all the Asian films were the same. You
Mhm.
racist bastards. But anyway, Audition was a huge, probably the biggest hit that, not counting now, but his biggest hit stateside in the United States for Takashi Miike. It was kind of the one that introduced him to the United States.
I would say it's the most American-friendly one I've seen so far.
Right, it's very much... looks like it has the premise of romantic comedy, and it goes somewhere else.
Yeah,
Halfway
it's
through.
kind of funny at first, actually.
I thought it was funnier at the end. Audition is basically the storyline of this documentarian played by Ro Ishibashi, named Shigeharu. I'll call him Ayoma from now on. And he's a documentary guy, and he's kind of lonely because his wife dies but 7 years earlier, right?
Yeah.
Because you see, listen, if you get
Well, I
sick,
don't know if it was 7 years, but she died.
Yeah,
What
no,
an asshole.
because his kid gets older, remember? 7
Why didn't you
years.
just wish her back with the Dragon Balls?
Anyway, so he's here's a point too. Don't get sick in Japan because they don't even try to resuscitate you if you drop dead.
Is that true?
Did you? No, I don't know. Did you just watch the beginning? It was the doctor just standing there when the lady dropped dead, and he's just like he just checks her vitals with a
Maybe
light.
he's a Seventh-day Adventist. Or a Scientologist, right?
Scientologist, right? It's funny because it was that funny. With the mother dies, his wife dies.
I thought it was hilarious.
And he just shines lights in her eyes, and I'm like, you can hear the machines, the
He's
heartbeats
like getting
over.
all like turned on, like I could see the light going out of her eyes.
He's trying to look at the ceiling to see if Michael J. Fox is flying up to it like the Frighteners. Anyway, so Ayoma is this doc. It flash forward 7 years to the present, I assume, which is 1999 Japan. His son has gotten older because we see that little heartwarming opening with his son trying to.
They
bring
should
him
have done like
diorama.
when they show like a flower growing in fast motion, like they'll tape it for like a year straight or something.
Should they just showed the mom turning
They
into bones?
they should have shown the son go through puberty. They should have just had him like against a wall and shown him like growing hair and taller and all these things.
I say they should have just showed the mom turn into bones and dust. That would have been.
That would have been good too. They could have done split screen. They could have shown life and death.
And him getting pubes and all that stuff. So yeah, so Ayoma is feeling pretty lonely. It was so funny because when I first saw the film, I thought his son was gay because he's kind of a little bit effeminate. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
He has a hard on for dinosaurs.
Yeah, it's a movie where a kid's looking up dinosaurs on the internet instead of pornography, and there's plenty of pornography in Japan. So
There might be dinosaur pornography. You don't know. What did the Flintstones masturbate to?
I'm sure of it. Yes, I'm sure.
I know that Barney had a particular thing for stegosauruses.
That's what he's. Fred used to just sit on a triceratops right in the horn in the center.
Wilma used to masturbate at the thought of a plesiosaurus. When
Think
she
about
heard
it.
that the Loch Ness Monster exists, she was so happy.
The thing about it, they're taking showers with that elephant's trunk out the window. I'm sure they're doing some shit. Going
God
on.
knows where else that trunk has been.
Oh my God, poor Betty. Anyway, so what happens is everybody's kind of picking up on Ayoma's loneliness. His son says, "Why don't you get remarried?" I don't know the dating process in Japan.
Yeah, they make it sound so fucking easy. They go on like 2 dates, and he's like, "I'm gonna propose to her."
Yeah, it sounds like a business thing. Although there are like I think there are like they do have kind of sort of arranged marriage kind of stuff
Well,
too.
he mentioned the idea of arranged marriage, so I guess that must be traditional.
Yeah, there's a lot of families that kind of just go, "Oh, do you want to meet this man?" And it must be. I don't know. It must be hard to maybe not that hard in Japan to date somebody, but
Well, their penises are so small. I mean, they have a challenge.
very good. So there's he goes up to his friend Yamada, who's who I guess is another director.
My penis is small too. I'm Jewish.
Yes, did it cut half of it off with the circumcision? Is that
Mhm.
right? But his buddy Yamada, who works with him at this, I guess, film company, right? Yamada
Yeah.
gives him the idea. He's like, why don't you try
He's like
to...
a producer or something.
Right. He says, why don't you audition some of these girls? We'll take the story that we based on a true story. We'll make a film out of it. We'll wrote a script. Basically, they're making a sham. It's like a comedy, an idea for a comedy film where a guy auditions a girl. It's usual in romance movies shit, where a guy will audition a girl and then she'll find out and run away and then she'll fall in love with him at the end. It's kind of like any typical storyline you've heard before. It's based on a novel by, like I said before, Ru Murakami, who's a pretty good novelist. He writes some really weird shit. I read a couple of Ru Murakami novels before. The best one...
Has Takashi Miike done any of his other?
No, he was actually gonna try to. I was gonna say it. He was trying to adapt a book of his called Coin Locker Babies, which is a fucking awesome book. It's a great book about. I think it's sort of true, not what happens in the book, but some women abandon their kids in these things called coin lockers. Basically, if you go like a train station and you want to leave your bag overnight or something like
Right.
that, there's a coin locker. You insert these coins and you can leave it in all night, and you certain like keys or whatever opens it up. And so the book is about these two individual kids left by.
That seems okay. There's probably air holes in it and stuff.
Two separate babies left in two separate coin lockers, and they happen to cross paths, and it's a whole big like epic storyline that leads to the end of the world. But it's really good. And Miike never got the funding to make the movie, which pisses me off because I would love.
How could he not? He's.
I don't know. I don't know. I think maybe the scope of the film was bigger.
They were giving all of it to Michael Bay so he could make turtles into aliens and have Whoopi Goldberg play a fucking white Jewish TV film guy.
And Shredder turning him from Japanese into a white guy, remember? So that's very
Yeah, right.
important. We know that too. And everything's motion captured, so even Shredder's suit is like with the little bulbs on it. So I guess they're gonna
What the
CG his
fuck,
suit.
man?
Okay, that's for another time. So
I heard the alien thing isn't true though, but still, my god.
Anyway, so Ru Murakami wrote books like I remember the books that I've read of his, like Coin Locker Babies, which was good, Almost Transparent Blue, which was good, Piercing, which is a novel with two different storylines, which got me really like freaked out because one of it was about this prostitute, and the other half was this guy. It's like a story that switched in between, and the other story was this guy who was obsessed with cutting the Achilles heel of somebody and hearing the pop and the hiss of their ankle when the air.
That's like Pet Cemetery. Oy.
Yeah, right, pretty much. And In the Miso Soup, I think, was a really good one about this Japanese guy who was a tour guide to a weirdo American who hypnotizes people and is a serial killer. I would say you should actually read those books. Anybody listening to this, if you're interested after seeing Audition, which this is based on, because I think maybe Miike took a little bit of liberties with this film.
Yeah, I would be curious to see the book version of this because this like jumps around a lot.
Apparently, it's faithfully told from the novel version, though it's like only 200 pages because he doesn't really write huge books, from what I remember.
Oh, that's good.
But apparently, I think
pop that on a day.
The only thing that they changed or added, Miike added this thing with a bag, a guy inside of a bag. So that's a really effective thing that happens in this film. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So anyway, we get to meet through the process. It's for the first about 20 minutes we're dealing with Oyama and his daily life, kind of being bored, and then he's getting excited because he's reading through all these audition. I don't even know how the auditioning for films are in Japan. If that's how it is anyway in this movie,
Right.
Japan is on some other thing that I have no idea. Like,
Well, we know they are.
well, that's true. But the way the interview process is more like a job than it is for acting. Like, they'll ask you really personal questions. I guess it's a pretty interesting way to gauge somebody and how they can relate to playing a character on film. But it's completely strange. And you're like, I've seen people do cold reads before for plays and stuff like that, and kind of what they're interested in. But this kind of process is very strange. So anyway, Ayama already has his eyes on this one
Asami.
girl. Yes, Asami. Yamazaki Asami. If she's played by Eihi Shina, who was the main character in this film called Tokyo Gore Police, which is a fucking awesome.
Now, are all Asian women this frightening?
I don't know it.
Because I feel like in a lot of movies, like Asian horror movies, they really like make the women seem so frightening.
I think what it is for American audiences, because I think since Japan is still such a foreign world to us, even after
Yeah.
all these years, that anytime that they do something a little bit strange, like the biggest thing in Japan that scares people are dolls. Like
Oh, okay.
little porcelain dolls. There's a certain type of porcelain doll in Japan that people are very scared of, and they're more scared. I think they don't really have. They do have religions, but obviously not the same kind of religions like Shinto religion and stuff like that. So they're kind of really scared about ghosts. They're not really. They're scared about monsters as well, but ghosts are a big thing. That's why you see stuff like The Ring and The Grudge. It's always
Right,
like a
right.
woman with her hair over her face, like very strange kind of ghosts that they have over there, as opposed to
Yeah.
the fucking shitty 13 Ghosts type of horror movie that we have over here.
Right.
But anyway, so they meet Asami, and she seems very introverted. How would you explain
She
her
seems
character?
depressed.
Yeah, and she was actually a model in real life. In 1999, she was a model. I don't know. She's very skinny. She's very tall, so she does have model features. Not necessarily my.
She's pretty.
Yeah, she's kind of just like what I think this film does. It's kind of pointing out the male view of women and how they kind of treat them more as objects than they do as equals.
Yeah, although he wasn't that bad. He was. I mean, he kind of was, but you could tell he was like a romantic guy.
I think he was romantic in the idea, but we do find out more and more that it was at the expense of others, because there's this woman earlier on in the film. I've forgotten a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
the film.
the secretary
There's
lady.
a secretary that's like clearly into him in the beginning of the film, and she's telling him that she's getting married, and he's kind of like he doesn't care, He's like okay, and he just leaves, and we're like, wow, he's pretty cool. He doesn't notice this woman. She's pretty older. She's like in her late 30s, early 40s, maybe, and she may
Well,
not
no wonder she's used up. He wants someone with fresh eggs.
some fresh eggs so you can inseminate.
He wants to make some omelets.
Jesus, he wants to scramble her eggs. I don't know why I've heard that before. But yeah, so she's clearly into him. Then we find out later on that he had a one-time affair with her and kind of just let her go without, she was expecting some more out of him, but he just, which is kind of fucked up in a way. But I mean,
I'm such a pig.
I know, me too. Who hasn't done that? For reasons. So what happens after? He kind of gets infatuated with this girl. He just kind of seems to zone in on it. There's a very funny sequence where they're auditioning all these girls, and you see, like, one
Yeah,
girl
that was
takes-
pretty good.
It's funny because they laugh about one guy's name. They're like, "What do you think about men?" And they actually, one of the women, the auditioners, she says with a name of one of the actors in the film, and you can see the actors break character and laugh because she says the name of the
I didn't
guy.
even catch that actually.
I had to look it up because I was like, why are they laughing at this part? And what happens is the guy that she says his name is the guy who plays the guy inside the bag. I think it's the guy in the bag. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But it seems like a very straightforward, dramatic film for at least the first 40 minutes of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And even Yamada, his Ioma's friend, is telling him, "Listen, there's something wrong with this girl because he didn't like the feel of her character. You know what I mean? Because she was saying
That guy was the guy that shoved spoons in his butt.
No. The guy who shoved spoons in his butt in Gozu was the old man in the wheelchair without
Oh,
legs.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's him. That other guy was from other Miike films, so he's.
Was he the one that killed the dog or something?
No. I know Danny.
I'm
Anybody
exposing
who
my
has,
racism and
anybody who
saying
has
that they all look
slanted
the
eyes,
same.
I bet you if you went to the front of the mirrors right now and did that racist fingers behind your eyes, you'd be like, "Holy shit, I'm the guy from Auditions."
I'm Jackie Chan. Are you Jackie Chan?
That's how racist you are. Because I don't want any trouble. Anyway, so we're getting to know Ayoma more and his interest in this girl, and she's kind of like, "Oh, I'm represented by Mr. Shibata, who's from this music company." They find out Mr. Shibata's been missing for a year, but that doesn't concern Ayoma, which it should, because she's kind of lying. And
She admits that she's lying, though. She covers it well.
Which is a really interesting scene, because if you watch the part where they kind of have a real serious first date at this diner, at this restaurant, and they're both drinking beer. Ugh, I can't imagine women liking beer.
You don't like beer?
Certain types of beer. I like fruity beer, like Red Stripe.
I mean, I'm not a big beer guy either, but it doesn't make me grossed out.
Corona with lime and Red Stripe beer are pretty good. But anyway, a bunch of people just vomited. Did I tell you? I think I told the story once where I ordered a light beer in front of this girl and she got disgusted with me. Like I wasn't a real man. It was pretty embarrassing. Anyway, so the interesting scene is when they have a date at this restaurant and she's telling her story. There's obvious edits in the sequence, and you're thinking that they're cutting this because just so there's not a lot of pauses in between, just kind of move the scene along.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll talk, and you'll obviously see the scene jump, even though they're in the same frame. It'll cut like if it cut about like a second off of the frame or something like that.
Right.
And then later on in the film, we see that they fill in the gaps for us of what she was really talking about because they bring that scene back to it. And now
there's a lot of that kind of hopping around sort of thing in this movie. It's a little confusing, but it's great.
This movie has one of the greatest like fuck yous to the audience I've ever seen. I remember watching it in the theater and going, "Wow, that is such a great fuck you!" Like expecting it to go somewhere, like giving us a happy ending, and then it tells "fuck you" and it comes back to reality, kind of thing.
Well, somebody like Captain Howdy would think it's a happy ending.
What? Oh, well, I guess so. And then
she basically is like Captain Howdy.
Yeah, I mean the most obvious comparison for this film is Misery from Stephen King's film, and even in the DVD extras for the film, Misery had been out by this time. I don't know whether Murakami had written it at the same time, unless he got some sort of inspiration. But it's very much similar in the sense of the torture and the feet stuff at the very end of the film, with this woman in charge, kind of.
She's definitely prettier than Annie Wilkes. I always see piano wire being used in movies to kill people and shit. Like, I guess it must be an effective weapon. I'm kind of curious to check it out.
I think what it is that it's there's a word for it. It's a French word. I think garrote or something like that. I can't.
Oh, Garrett.
Garrett, right?
Yeah, when you like I think that just means to strangle or something.
It's like that show, The Facts of Life. Mrs. Garrett. She got that name because she used to kill every man that visited the house with a girl.
Oh my god! I didn't know that show was so deep.
That was the really serious version of the show. Anyway, that's why Mr. Drummond had to fire her. So anyway, eventually Ayoma does hook up with what's her face? What's her name? Asami. What did you think about that seduction scene where she just kind of got naked and laid in the bed? I would.
It's a little creepy.
As a man, I would probably still sleep with her, but you'd be like, "What the fuck is this? Like, what's going on here?"
Nah, I'd be a little creeped out. Actually, I'm usually frightened.
You know what I was frightened when I first saw?
He's talking about cheeseburgers. Like he's trying. You could tell he's like all nervous. That would be me.
He's like hamana hamana hamana. And the very funny thing is when I saw this, I actually saw this in the theaters when I was very young. And it came out. I was very young. I was probably like fucking middle age. And the part she starts showing her legs because apparently she practiced ballet when she was 12 years old, and she injured her hip supposedly. And there's a part where she seduces Ayoma into bed, and she starts lifting this. She gets naked, goes into the bed, and she starts lifting the bed sheets. And it's like a really long shot. There's a lot of long shots in this film. Like,
it reminded me of a scene in Naked Gun. I think it's 33 1/3,
yes,
where it shows. I can't think of her name. Not Pam Anderson, the other one.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Whatever. She's the girl in it, and she's lifting her. Oh no, I'm wrong. It's Elvis Presley's. Whatever. Either way, she starts lifting her, showing her legs, and it just keeps going up and up and up and up. Like you see, like 2 sets of kneecaps and shit. It's really funny. It reminded me of that scene.
I think you were thinking of who's that woman that died? Anna Nicole Smith. Anyway, but yeah, no. When I first saw this scene, I swear to God, when she was lifting the sheet up, I thought we were gonna see a schlong come out of the bottom of that shit. Like she was gonna.
Also, have a big before I forget, there was a scene where she falls down the stairs or whatever, and you see her neck like
that's
spasm.
At the end. We'll get to that. We'll get that to the end of that.
Okay.
But the whole deal with he sleeps with her and he wakes up with a pounding headache. So I thought maybe in Japan they just have a different kind of AIDS over there, like a really super AIDS that attacks you overnight, kind of like little.
Well, they didn't show the sex scene, but she was actually. It's her turn on is to pound him in the head with a hammer or something.
He's not looking. With a rolling pin, and she puts on hair rollers and everything too, and she just hits him over there like 1940s wife. Yeah, there's a whole thing with the film where. We know what's gonna happen.
He dresses like a cat and makes her beat him with a broom.
And he goes, "Say there, you." He breaks on like an American 1920s accent. He goes, "Please there, hit me
Yeah,
right
it's
over
like
the
a
head.
cigar.
I'd love it. I'd love it if you hit me right over the head. Strike me right there." And she hits him over the head. You hear the clunk. So we know what's gonna happen with this film just because they could have really fucked an audience and been like, "Oh, it's a romantic comedy film," and then just like at the last second switch this up.
Right.
But when Yamada first tells him, "Listen, don't call it for a week," because I know I've done that as a dating male, and you don't want to look too, what is it? What does they say? Thirsty for a woman. There's a whole scene where we see her kind of.
I think I usually wait 1 day.
I usually wait 3
I don't
days.
understand these fucking games and rules. I wish I could just call right away. Like,
yeah, me too. But hey, how's it going? Hey, what's you wearing? And you
you don't want to come off like a
window
weirdo.
at the same time.
Like, if it was up to me, I'd just call like 10 minutes later. Like, oh, I had a good time. Like, why does it have to be so complex? I don't understand this.
So romantic, Danny. So romantic. But in this, how would you explain what she does while she's waiting for the phone?
She's creepy. She just fucking like waits there, like totally comatose,
Hunched
waiting
over by this phone, and there's a bag next to her. And I'll tell you, there was like this big bag that's right next to her. And you're like, what's going on? Like by the 5th time, that bag moves with such a shocking sound effect. I almost shit my pants in the theaters at how loud that was because it's completely quiet. Then you hear this big, huge rumbles. Like, what the fuck? I was like, holy shit. What we find out later in that what that bag is Mr.
He's a supermodel. He's really sexy.
It's Mr. Shimada, I think.
She salvaged one of the people under the stairs after they escaped from the house.
Because what happens is Yoma sleeps with her and she disappears. They're like the creepy hotel guy who's looking nowhere, like calling up with a creepy cadence and everything, a creepy stare. He calls him up and goes, "Your friend left, so are you gonna leave?" He goes, "No." So effectively, Asami disappears for the night, and Yoma is now kind of, for the last hour of the film, he's kind of looking for. He goes into this odyssey trying to find out who she is, and I'll give it up to a point. But this is where the supernatural and weirdness of the film, because I can believe everything that he kind of.
What's supernatural? What happens is supernatural?
He goes and he finds the school. He finds the school where she used to do ballet in, right?
Yeah.
It's completely locked. It's boarded up. He breaks in. The guy who used to be her molester, who was her stepfather, is still there, playing piano.
Oh, that was her stepfather. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's very weird. I'm assuming that was her stepdad because she says later on that in the flashback mid-story that he used to, burn her legs and make her dance for him, and that's effectively ruined her experience. The only reason she didn't kill herself because she used to.
He was just trying to get her legs more dancey.
I guess so, with a hot sting of metal.
It's like in the Old West when they'd shoot at your feet to get you dancing. This was his tactic.
The only thing that I had a problem with how he knew is that how he would know what's inside the bag if he didn't have an idea what was in the bag.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying.
He's picturing the bag and all this weird shit. That's the only thing, because we physically see the bag in her room, but then he'll see the bag and the guy come out. And apparently, the part where she feeds the guy in the bag her vomit?
Vomit, yeah.
She really did vomit for the scene. I don't think he actually ate the vomit, but I had to look away, like back then and today.
I hate seeing people vomit.
Because she vomits in this dog bowl and makes him, he eats it, and he's like, "Oh, it's tasty."
Now that guy, was that the record producer?
That's what I assume, because apparently she must have had a relationship with this record producer a year and a half earlier, because apparently the guy disappeared for a year. She says she worked at a restaurant for her friend. I think it's called the Stone Fish on 4th Street. I remember that one.
Except she didn't work there.
She probably did a year and a half ago. She didn't work there currently, right? So, because he goes down there, and I like how many times I almost ask him the guy with the bow tie, and the guy keeps popping back and forth between the wall and leaving. And apparently the story asks you to fill in gaps, which it's not too hard to fill in gaps, although this kind of film is kind of super weird in a way, very weird in a way. And apparently she had a relationship with this record exec guy, but then he started sleeping with her friend who owned the restaurant. What happened is that she chopped up her friend, left her pieces there, and the way that the building is slanted, which is really creepy and interesting, is that the blood seeped through the door because the building was slanted. And when they found that they saw 3 extra fingers and an extra tongue that wasn't related to the woman. And when we flash back, we see the guy through.
And then Shiga I don't know how to say his name.
Ayoma.
Shigeharu sees like a psychic flash of the tongue and the fingers.
Yeah, like he gets freaked out. He's very funny looking when he's freaked out. But he's a good actor. And his hallucination of the guy inside the bag being Mr. Shibata, who's become her kind of pet because she's severed his feet and everything. So that kind of figures into it. And once I saw that there was a dog in this film, I completely forgot that there was a dog in the movie. And when I saw it again, I was like, she was gonna kill it. Oh, that dog is dead meat. I couldn't even watch that movie with Will Smith, I Am Legend, because I knew they were gonna kill that goddamn dog.
That was a sad scene.
So anyway, we cut towards.
Clowns always upset me too.
What's that?
Pooh Bear at the beginning of Killer Clowns.
Oh yeah, Pooh.
Yeah.
So we do have the sequence now where we know that Ayoma's in deep shit because this girl's disappeared and now he's in trouble. But he doesn't know that. But he knows that this girl he got into a situation with is not going to be really very good for him. And we see that apparently they didn't kill the woman that helps clean the house. So I guess she got out okay, right?
Well, I mean, we didn't see her kill the woman.
She kind of left, yeah. She just left, and then this girl the POV runs into the house. The dog's dead. He gets paralyzed because we see him drinking. Is it rum or was that gin or something? But
it was some kind of liquor. But yeah, she's gonna kill him because he loves his son and has a picture of his dead wife. So therefore, he hasn't committed 100% to her.
Yeah, she tells him that he should love her only, and
which is basically Annie Wilkes. Yeah, that's Annie Wilkes.
Basically, and she paralyzes him. Not with this. What she did? She put something in his drink that paralyzed him. I guess it was the same kind of drink that toppled him.
Now, what was that spray stuff she was spraying?
I think that might have been a spray version of the shit that she gave him to drink. Because remember, he woke up with the headache, so maybe she injected it to him, made him drink some. I don't know. But apparently, then she it's really torturous. The last half an hour of the film is very like.
Yeah, they don't show much.
It's hard to watch. They don't, but it's the idea of it. The sound effects enough are like horrible.
Yeah,
she injects a paralyzing thing into his tongue, I think, and or it helps him feel better. I mean, feel more with his nerves. I think it opens his nerves up.
He's paralyzed, but he's more sensitive.
And then she does this kind of fucked up version of acupuncture on him, right? She's stabbing him through his stomach and his chest. Although I wouldn't think that would hurt that much, but I don't know.
I mean, I don't want it done to me.
Puts it underneath his eyeballs, stuff like that. And then what does she proceed to do with his feet?
She cured his neck problems.
Yeah, right. Imagine you wait at the end of the film.
He got his chi flowing.
He doesn't even need feet anymore. That did so much good shit from that.
Now he can just fly with his own
with his mind powers. The acupuncture opened up his third eye. So she proceeds to do what to his feet, Danny?
Oh, piano wired off. Oh, I hate the sound of it.
Because you hear it go through the skin and hit the bone. She chops off his left foot with it, and then she proceeds to. That what got me is that she got through his right foot too. She didn't fully cut it off, but you could tell she got through it.
Yeah.
And by that time, his son actually comes back home, and she's about to attack him. Then he wakes up, which is a huge fuck you to the audience. I loved it because it's like,
oh yeah, I was so like, wait, was this?
Yeah, it was like, oh, here's the safe ending. He was dreaming all that, and the whole joke is that who is he gonna get married with? Because we see his face. Like, who am I gonna get married with if I'm having this weird dream about her? Which there are a lot of films that do that shit with the dream ending, which are fucking horrible. But he goes back to sleep, and it cuts back to reality where he is in that situation. And son comes in. She starts trying to spray him in the face. She's. What do you think of her as a psychopath, as a kind of iconic villain?
I mean, I wouldn't call her an iconic villain, but she's good at what she does.
I liked her look at the end with the little rubber suit apron that she has on at the end.
I would never want an action figure of her, but she is.
I wish they would.
Cool.
I wonder if they do. I'm sure they have to have one. They make action figures out of anything in Japan.
I mean, she's never gonna top Jason or something, you know.
Well, no, obviously not. But for a female villain, I think she's pretty good. I think she holds her own with Ann Wilkes. Well, Ann Wilkes is
she's cool, but like she's not like what's her face from The Ring or something. Samara, Sudoku. Yeah, Sudoku.
Yes, Sudoku. The guy at the original version of that movie, the guy writes numbers and makes her vanish back into a well. And it's funny because there was a horror film in the U.S. I think it was called Final Exam or something like that, and they totally ripped off the scene. Oh, no, it was Final Exam, maybe Final Class or some shit like that. It's about these it
was a Final Fight where Cody and Hager have to fight the mayor. They have to fight the major crime boss and rescue.
The mayor was Haggard, asshole. How dare you? But anyway, I think it was called not Final Exam, Final something, Final Clash or some shit like that. And it was an American film about these school nerds that dressed up like their favorite horror film characters and tortured all the students that were mean to them in the school. And there's a whole blatant scene, and I guess legally they couldn't say what they were basing their sequences on. But the girl dresses up completely in the same clothing, and she has the same razor wire or whatever the fuck she has, and it's like embarrassing. It's just like, you can't make up your own shit. What a piece of garbage that movie was. Anyway, so after the son, what happens when the son runs up the staircase?
He kind of like kicks her down the stairs, and she goes really far.
It was an epic. You remember the scene in I forget which Jason film it was, but Jason pulls this. He throws a woman out of a window. It might have been Jason 4 or something. Okay. And she makes a pretty impressive arc, like not a ballerina, but like a gymnast over a thing, like just huge arc. This kid kicks the shit out of this woman right down the stairs in a beautiful, graceful arc in slow motion. It's probably one of the best
she's a ballerina.
It's probably one of the best shots I've ever seen in this film. This film has really nice shots in the movie as well as like when Ioma.
It's got a much more friendly lighting too. I noticed.
Yes, it's like when Ioma sees he sees Asami outside of the window. She's looking at the beach. That's a really beautiful shot in the film. And I was like, wow. There's a lot of long takes in the film, so I mean, it's kind of art house. They could have chopped it on, but I'm glad they didn't because I was pretty much invested in the film.
Although I have to say, this movie, because it seems much more accessible to American audiences or something. But I kind of like it more. I kind of like a Gozu kind of thing more. Of
course, yeah. That's your certain preference, but I think it still is a good film myself.
Yeah, I think it's good. It let me down a little.
Maybe this should have been if it was the first one.
It didn't live up to the hype I was expecting because I've heard of this movie.
But the last 15 minutes, I think, pretty much lived to the hype.
Yeah.
Of the violence.
Oh man, that scene of him eating the vomit and stuff, it's so sick.
Yeah, it's incredibly slow-paced film. And what kind of meanings did you get through the film? Like, what did you feel the storyline was about, and what did it
I guess this would be maybe from a feminist point of view, like really putting down men or something, because it's like showing that they're just like pigs kind of, and then like, you know, the guy eating the vomit, it's like when they're in extreme pain, it shows what they really are, and he's basically just like this fucking animal dog creature eating like fucking vomit.
Yeah, the most basic aspect of a man is kind of this animal and does her bidding, because the guy, it is making what seems to be a lighthearted attempt to find a woman, but you don't know the ramifications or who you're really dating.
All I know is I'm putting a fake ad on Craigslist for an audition, and I'm gonna try this out myself.
Do you at least have the premise for the film of what you're trying to do? Is it a German scat movie? You're like, I'm going to find my woman.
I'm auditioning for a German scat movie.
But yeah, I think the whole aspect of
the part that's a lie is that I'm Jewish. They don't know that part.
You're gonna grow out that extra big Hitler stash for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole feeling of the movie, to me at least, is that, you know, you can have the slightest of or the most purest intentions. But you don't know how that intentions can go, especially if you're looking for somebody in a relationship. Because she says that to him, you know, when she's sawing off his legs, she's like, or his feet, she's like, all of you men are the same, which is kind of like the jaded woman being affected by this man's flightful fancy idea of finding love in a romantic.
He wasn't a bad guy, though.
Yeah, I don't think he was a bad guy.
He was just a product of his culture. Like, they have a different way of doing it.
Yeah, I don't think that's normal for all of them, but I think it's kind of him abusing his power a little bit, even though he didn't mean it to be in a bad way. You know, he genuinely liked her, and there was something attractive about her to him, and I think it was kind of the siren's call.
His kind of bad thing was he likes this woman. He doesn't even consider the fact that she might not like him. He's just like, oh, I choose this one.
Yeah, exactly. He was gonna throw her right into his Pokeball and just keep her and throw her out whenever he needed sex. But anyway. My rating for the film. Well, let's hear you. What's your rating for the film?
I'm gonna give this 7.7 out of 10. 7.76 out of 10. Eating vomit like a happy doggy.
It was all milky and slopping out when she walked out with it.
She had a lot of heavy cream before.
I hate the idea that she actually vomited, even though that wasn't on screen. Anyway, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Having a hallucination of the girl that you were interested giving you a blowjob through audition turning into the woman you had a one-time affair with, and into your high school son's potential ex-girlfriend or girlfriend. So Danny, what's the final word?
It's a me, Mario.
The horror deconstruction.